Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right. This might be. We'll see
Hi.
how we're on chapter 9. So this might be. We'll see how fast we go. This might be the last week for our Rosebook Book Club with John Gordon, and we are on chapter 9, A Wave of Change. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to share, like from last week or anything like that, or do we just want to dive right in? I take it that's a dive right in.
That's a dive right in.
Let's
like
go.
dive right into me.
Let's go. All right.
All right. We're on a wave of change, and John Gordon wrote this part. So PJ and I decided to write this book before we had any idea what the worldwide coronavirus pandemic was coming our way. The University of Minnesota football team had just won 11 games for the first time since 1904. PJ and Row the Boat have turned around a struggling program once again, and it looked like he and his team were about to become a national championship contender. The University of Minnesota football program was on the rise, and like most of us, was getting ready to have an incredible 2020. And then COVID-19 hit. What started out as a ripple from the other side of the world wound up rocking the boat and brought a tumultuous wave of change that greatly impacted college football, PJ's program, as well as every aspect of society. Several of UM's best players opted out of the season for pandemic safety concerns. When players tested positive, it affected who could play, how many could play on any given Saturday. It was a season filled with change and adversity that would truly test PJ, his team, and the Row the Boat principles. As I watched the season unfold, I wondered how PJ and his team were doing. He and his staff were used to rising each year, winning more and more games, not rising and then falling. How would Row the Boat adjust and work in this situation? A true test of someone's principles and philosophies is whether they adhere to them regardless of circumstances. It would have been easy to say, let's publish this book only after PJ wins a national championship. But that's not what PJ and Row the Boat are all about, and that's why I both love what they stand for and what they believe. Row the Boat is not just about creating a successful culture and program and winning championships. It's also about how you handle adversity. When a wave of change rocks your boat to the core of your existence. With this in mind, let's learn from PJ how you can keep growing through adversity and through waves of change. Chapter 10, Responding to Adversity. Life happens applies equally to sports, business, and life. It's how we respond to a circumstance that makes our organization and team who we are and determines where we will be heading. The path to success will constantly be filled with peaks and valleys, and everyone, without exception, will experience them. The vision we have for our life, career, team, family, or organization doesn't take into account the natural pitfalls that will come. When they come, we will deal with them at that time. Issues and challenges always arise as you rise and fall and rise again on your way to realizing your vision. Whoever is better able to handle adverse moments and periods will get ahead. Whoever fails at this will fall behind. You must remember that the dream is the journey, not the destination. Every hard day, every lost family member, every financial burden, every no, every divorce or breakup, every hardship is part of your journey on the way to achieve your dream and is meant to teach you how to handle success and failure. These tests help you build leather skin for the assignments in your life. Have you ever had something happen to you that seemed devastating at the time, but when you look back later in life, you realize that it shaped what and who you are as a person? This doesn't mean it's easy to handle when you're going through it, but it does mean that if we keep growing, we will see that the success is the journey itself rather than a particular destination. I love when players tell me they want to make it to the NFL. I ask, just make it there? One day, 1 week? Play in one game? Play a year? Make it to a second contract? Be all pro? Be a Hall of Famer? Be the greatest ever? What's the dream specifically? There'll be a major price to pay during that journey, and it's definitely not filled with calm seas all the time. In fact, the journey is mostly filled with storms. Is the dream worth it, and can you keep rowing through those times? Just as not everyone looks at the journey and life the same way, not everyone will row the same way. Not every boat is the same, and the water is different. Let me find it. The water is different depending on where you are in your journey. Some will row harder and some will row in a different direction. Some will lose sight of their vision. Some of the key elements of your journey is surrounding yourself with people who want to go to the same destination. Only by rowing together can we achieve our goals. Storms affect people differently, and 2020 certainly brought us heavy storms. COVID-19, social injustice, the political divide, and the election all affected people in various ways. Yet regardless of the differences, we were all affected by that tumultuous year. You couldn't hide from it. You had to face it. Each of us made daily choices to row or quit rowing. In challenging times, we could either think of others with empathy or just think about ourselves and how it affected us. We could live a life of serving, giving, and learning, or choose to ignore the lessons we were being presented with. We could choose to avoid discussing difficult topics, or we could have the difficult conversations we needed to have as a team and a society in order to learn and grow together. In order to successfully navigate the waters of 2020, we would need to live with a compass of faith. Nothing in 2020 was predictable, organized, or regimented. We all had to adapt to changing tides and winds. New norms were established. To a coach, a schedule is everything, and we had no schedule. Just like the rest of the world, there were times we couldn't leave our homes, and instantly our homes became our offices. Zoom calls became the normal way to hold meetings. We could only have so many people in a room at a time. Many of our staff and their spouses had to become teachers at home. We saw many families being separated for months because of flight restrictions and quarantining. Those in the medical community risked their lives daily, while many others had to deal with the pain of not being able to see their sick loved ones in hospitals. Too many died alone, and no visitors to ease the pain or to comfort them in their suffering. I acutely felt for the patients in the children's hospitals that were accustomed to the many visitors that helped brighten their days. Now they were restricted to being visited by just a single family member. In the realm of football, we saw canceled seasons, opt-outs, canceled games, and experienced the anxiety of Q-tips being jammed up our noses daily and the stress-filled 15 minutes before you found out whether you had contracted a virus that could harm you. We recruited players to come to our school whom we had never met and who never even visited the school before. Where was the safe and reliable place we all had in our lives? There was no playbook for this. However, if we set our compass to faith, we had a chance to get through this and become stronger and better than before. If we complained and worried only about ourselves, loneliness, depression, and anger would take over. Whoever could keep rowing, no matter what came their way, had a chance to make it through 2020 with an elite vision and focus for 2021. For me and our team, it was about having faith that all that happened to us in the big storm of 2020 was there to teach us and prepare us to create a better world tomorrow. In 2020, the game that would define our row the boat response to all the change and adversity we had been through was when we played against Nebraska. We were down 33 players, the majority being COVID related. Playing in Lincoln, where the Gophers had only won one time since 1960. We were playing 9.5-point underdogs. We had around 20 freshmen playing, and we were playing our third string kicker. We overcame so much adversity, kept rowing, and won the game. It was a feat that only could happen with everyone rowing for each other. Winning that game might just be a quick memory for some, and maybe will be forgotten by many. But that game ball is going in a display case for what it meant to our row the boat culture. Everyone was needed for that cultural win. It wasn't a championship season for us. We lost to Wisconsin in overtime the following week. We had a losing record after a historic winning season the year before. But I'll never forget how our coaching staff, players, and program kept battling throughout the year and the season together. We kept fighting, and despite being outmanned in almost every game we played, we never gave up. We rowed the boat through adversity and demonstrated that we truly believed in the row the boat principles, no matter how difficult the circumstances. I know without a doubt it made us stronger and will prepare us for the future. The year 2020 taught me 5 things I will take with me forever. 1, faith. Row the boat no matter how hard it gets. We had faith that 2020 was there to teach us how we could all grow more, do more, become more, and love more. 2, empathy. Sacrifice for the person next to you. Serve them and their needs. Get to know who they are and their story. No matter race, religion, or gender, we need to put ourselves in the shoes of others and learn, listen, and act to make a difference. 3, unity. Together is the only way. You can't row by yourself. We all need one another. No hierarchy, no division, no ignorance. We can all row together and row with one another. Hold each other accountable and don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation. Our compass is to each other. Our compass is each other. 4, gratitude. COVID-19 showed us how much we needed to appreciate our daily blessings by taking so many of them away. We need to be thankful for each other and take care of one another. 5, the standard will always be the standard. Circumstances will change, and reasons for not upholding the standard of the culture will always exist. In drastic times of change, this will be tested.
So one of the things that I liked in this chapter was when it said, if we set our compass to faith, we had a chance to get through this and become stronger and better than before. If we complained and worried only about ourselves, loneliness, depression, and anger would take over. And I absolutely see this in the things going on in our business right now. I absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, see this in the people that are getting really hung up on the changes that we've had in the last 6 months. Is that the people that have set their compass to faith, and they have the faith that, as Maria said, the people at Tupperware didn't get up this morning to make our lives miserable, right? They came up this morning to find solutions for us, but the people that are just sitting in it and complaining about things that they don't have any control over, they're angry, they're miserable, and they're making sure everybody knows. It's like a fire hose. And it's so important to choose your hard, right? Choose your hard. It's hard to stay in a job that you don't like, that you're unsatisfied with, that is draining you. It's hard to build a successful direct sales business. Choose your hard. It's so important to recognize that every day that you have a choice and that you need to choose your hard, because life is hard either way. And so choose which hard you're going to go after. And the other thing is too, and I always loved when people would say this, they're like, why don't you go for it? Why don't you go for it for the next year, for 30 days, for 90 days, 60 days, make a commitment to go for it and to give it all you've got. The time is going to pass anyways. So you may as well make the most of it. And the first time I heard somebody say that time is going to pass anyways, why not do something extraordinary? Why don't make the most of it or whatever? I was like, yeah, that's true. I mean, the next 90 days are going to come and go. It's up to me each day as to what choice I make, as to which direction I'm going to go in these next 90 days or 30 days or whatever it is that you put out there for yourself, And so, yeah, that I think that is like one of the biggest things, is that remembering to have that faith that whatever it is you're going through, whether it's Tupperware related or whether it's family related or health related, is to have that faith and courageously take steps towards that solution that you're looking for, or that perfect outcome that you're looking for. And you may or may not get to the perfect outcome, but if you're making a conscious decision every single day, you will be a hell of a lot further along than you were if you just sat around and complained about it and took everybody out in your circle. Because I tell you what, I have such a small tolerance for complaining. And I typically just remove myself from the situation, because you know what? I got my own stuff I'm dealing with, right? I could sit there and I could complain to everybody under the sun about all the crap that has gone on in my life over the last 2 years, especially the last year, right? But who does that serve? And it doesn't serve me. How am I going to get past those things if I don't set my compass to go in the direction of getting past it, And so I've gotten to the point, I have like zero tolerance for people that are complaining about things that are outside of their control, because that's what everybody's doing right now. They're complaining about vaccines, they're complaining about masks, they're complaining about the president, they're complaining about the government, they're complaining about everything, you name it, they figured it out. They're complaining about the grocery store, they're complaining about grocery pickup, they're complaining about the gas prices, they're complaining about everything. These are all things that are not under their control. And do you want to be that person? Because I tell you what, if you're that person, you're going to find me avoiding you more and more, and so, but you have to also protect yourself. If you don't want to be that person and you're fighting against it, you have to protect yourself and you have to put that armor up. And sometimes that means changing the subject, leaving the situation. Do you want to go head to head with that person and be like, dude, you're super negative and I'm over it? typically that's not the way I go. Typically I just kind of sidestep it because it's easier to go around than to go up against the opposition. That takes too much of my energy that I could be putting into making my mindset to be set in the right place and setting my compass to where I want to go. And so sometimes I will combat it, but very rarely do I just sidestep it, and so, because again, it just takes less energy, and it's one of those, like, intention goes where the energy flows, or maybe it's in something like that. But anyways, what you put your energy into, right, that becomes. And so if I'm putting my energy into opposition, I'm just going to find more opposition. I'm just going to see it everywhere, and so just some food for thought on that. And I love these, like, the 5 things: faith, empathy, unity, gratitude. I think we can all think of like dozens of examples of all of those things over the last 2 years that we've, witnessed.
So those are choices we have to make every day. Sometimes a couple times a day, depending on the day.
True that. Depending upon the hour.
Yeah, I think one of the things is, like, a lot of it is little decisions that you make all the time. Because if you wait to start trying to do this positive everything until something big comes along, you're already so far into the other that it's just not going to happen. So you have to do, it has to be even little things that you just have to not tolerate people complaining about, or, just your own mindset. I just think all the time, I've talked to people about different things, and there's been a lot of things in my life that have been hard, but like most of the time, I didn't have time to stop and think about which way I wanted to go with it. You just kind of had to plow ahead and do it, But then I'll talk to people, and some people have known me for a long time, and they'll go, well, I didn't know any of that. You don't talk about any of that. What are you going to talk about it for? I mean, if it could help somebody, that's different. But I was actually talking to somebody on my team the other day, and I said something about Michael, and she got the funniest look on her face. And I was like, what? She goes, I thought you were divorced. And it's like, no. And she goes, I've known you almost 2 years, which to me proves that there's been a lot of places she should have been listening to me and didn't. But
that's funny.
And she goes, I just thought you were divorced. She goes, why don't you? And I said, what? And I just remember telling somebody else that told me one time, he said, I talked to you for like 20 minutes and you never said anything. I said, it's not a good conversation starter. It's not where it's not what I want people to think when they look at me. Like, I don't want people's immediate reaction to be, oh, that's the lady that, was in foster care, who's, I mean, all of this stuff. That's not, no, thank you. Okay. That was a few years ago, and I would just keep moving. Yeah. But I think it's a conscious choice that you have to make every day, starting with little things all the time. And then that way you can kind of combat the bigger things. And you guys that have kids at home, like Amy and Ellen that have little kids, it's so good that you can do that with them now, so that they get used to it as they get older, and they're already at that mindset, instead of, like, I know that you probably don't let them do things like, oh, we have so much homework and she always gives us so much homework, but they can't control that. Rod's going to give them homework. They might as well just do it,
Broad.
You get it done.
Broad.
I just tell my kids all the time that come and go, I don't like her. And I go, you don't have to like her. You do have to do what she's telling you to do. No way does that teacher have to be your best friend, but she is in charge of the grade you're going to get. So jump on.
I was going to say the same thing. If you don't deal with individual circumstances, it does build up. And Tom's not here, he's in class, but I'll use him as an example. He absolutely despises his job. He's corrective processing for, I'm going to say, retirement plans at Nationwide Financial. I don't know if the retirement plans is the right term, but his team gets dumped on all the time. Like if there's something else that needs done, they're like, oh, corrective processing can do it. And there's things that like, I'll ask him questions and there's no logic there. Like if somebody keeps making the same error, their team has to keep correcting those same errors instead of going back and having that person that's making the error not on their team aware of it so that there's a correct. But anyway, he gets so mad. Like I'll be down here in these book club meetings and he'll be yelling upstairs when he gets an email or a same time message. And I'm like, come on, you got to deal with that better. And that's a really good, I've always told him it's just how you react to it. Just take a deep breath. But I like the idea, and I'm going to have to mention to him that it's the individual little things, because if you let those little things build up to the big thing, you have that once that stone starts rolling down the hill and gathers momentum, you aren't stopping it. It's just going to plow over everything.
Well, that's
Yeah.
like when especially in marriages or serious relationships like that, when you let all those little things just build up, and then all of a sudden you just blow up and you're bringing up things from 13 years ago. Like
Right.
when you remember when you left the knife on the sink with the peanut butter on it and I had to clean it, you know, it's just like, whoa.
I
Yeah.
wish that only happened 13 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Jenny, I told you about that knife with the peanut butter and confidence. Stop.
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. So Jeff, we live in the same house because that is literally Eric every day. And like at least a couple times, probably at least 2 times a week, I'm just like, you are in charge of how you're reacting to this. And I'm like, and I don't want this. Like, this is not the vibe I want in our house. And I go in there and I use my Palo Santo and I'm like going around clearing the energy. I did this morning. I'm just like, and I'll come walking in with my little stick burning and he's just like, and I'm like, yeah, this is happening. And so Palo Santo, if you don't know, it's like sage, right? So
yeah.
But sage is too much smoke, so I do the Palo Santo. So yeah, I mean, it's seriously like you have to, and it's funny. So to clarify, when I say like I don't tolerate complaining, I'm not saying like I don't hear it out, because complaining is very important in the problem solving process. You know, it's vital. It has to happen. But when it's just like over and they're just like not in a place of solution, they're just in a place of complaining, that's when I'm like, I'm out. Like, we're done here.
The whole time you were talking about that, I'm like, well, I feel it's important to have someone you can
Absolutely.
go to vent.
Yes.
Because sometimes in the moment it helps you process it, but you can't get stuck in it, because when you're
Yes.
stuck in it, then you just
Exactly.
you have to dig yourself out, and it's not worth that.
Yeah, exactly, Melissa. That's exactly it.
All I'm going to say is screaming a string of profanity and explicatives at the phone or an email, that's really not venting in my mind.
Oh, no.
But see, here's the thing. When he's doing that, that's not the time for me to be yelling upstairs going, Thomas, let's take a deep breath and bring
That's when
that
you need to
down.
walk with the sage plant through the room.
You know,
That's the time.
I have Palo Santo incense because it's good for Zeus. It's Zen for our Doberman. So I might have to take, when he's having those days, I'm gonna have to take one of the holders upstairs and just light one of those sticks up in the
Just
office.
leave, close the door. She's like, nothing to see here. Drop that there.
Oh my God. Too funny.
But like
Now the
when
next
Melissa
time you
was-
see him, don't you dare ask him if he's cursed at the computer screen or anything.
Oh, I will not listen. That's like poking the bear in our house.
No,
So.
no,
Because I will get a knife and cut you.
that's funny.
A peanut butter knife? A peanut butter knife?
There you go. If there's peanut butter on it, it gets sticky and it's to the counter and it's really annoying. Just let me tell you. Plus, if you let the adults do it, the kids think it's okay.
Exactly. Hello.
But like when Melissa was saying you need somebody to vent to,
Yes.
I really think that if you pick the right person that is that person for you, they will let you vent, but you also know in the back of your mind that they're not going to let you live there.
Right.
So it depends on what you want out of that. If you want to find somebody that's going to let you vent and sympathize with you and go there with you, you can both lay there in that ditch all day long. But if you
Yeah.
find the right person to call and go, okay, this, and this, and they go, okay,
Are you
so what do you
finished?
do? What do you
Yeah.
do? You know, how would you like to fix that? Because that is one thing I've learned in the last few years of being in Tupperware, that there's quite a few people that will let you say anything you want to, but you better have an end game whenever you're done. Like when you're all done going, and this person and that person, and they're like, okay, so how you gonna
What are you
fix
gonna
it?
do?
And
Yeah.
it's like, I
True
didn't want to
that.
fix it. I just wanted to gripe about it.
Yeah.
And do you guys agree? I don't think you can tell negative people they're negative because I don't think they believe they are.
Oh, they do, a lot of times they don't. Some of the most negative people I know are like, you know me, I'm positive, and I'm like, like what? Like, do you listen to yourself? And I'm just
Positive,
like,
you're
you know
negative.
me, and I'm just like, I do know you.
And
I
you
was
know
there.
your eyes are showing it. You're like, okay.
You want to just tell them, oh, that's a negative.
Negative.
That's a negative. You're
Eventually they'll be so offended, Lydia, that they won't come up and talk to you anymore. Score.
Yeah.
I know.
Amy wants to know where you get that stuff. She needs some. She wants to know if it's available on Amazon.
You can get it on Amazon. You just got to make sure that it's like dry or it's dried or something.
The incense, Amy, is Flint Candle Company out of Flint, Michigan.
Oh.
And it's really, really inexpensive. So check that out.
And the
Here's the
wood
funny
looks
thing.
like this. It's like,
Oh, you actually burn wood.
yeah, this is like Palo Santo wood.
I so want a video of you doing that.
Oh.
I want you to know that now everybody that's in Ellensburg is getting a piece of that wood for Christmas. That's what's coming in the mail.
Right.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Christmas present.
An explanation on
Better
what to
than
do.
coal.
It smells really
That's
good.
funny. Now we use a pet communicator for our dogs just because they're all three rescues. They all have different issues, and Zeus's is more mental. And he's on supplements and everything. He's doing really well. But he told the pet communicator one time that he wanted to eat Tom's office phone that's on his desk upstairs. And she said, I don't understand that. Do you know what that means? And Tom just smiled and looked down. And I'm like, what? Because the phone calls that he gets make him so angry that Zeus wants to eat the phone so people can't call anymore. That's the vibe that he's got going on Zeus during the day. So
that's pretty profound.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's never touched it. Thank God. I don't know how they'd explain that one to the office. I need a replacement phone. My dog ate my phone.
You guys
Well,
made me
people
so
can't
mad.
call
My
me.
dog ate my phone.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Mm.
A pet communicator. I love that. When you first said it, I was like, what's that? And then as you were talking, I was like, oh, like a medium, but like for pets.
Yeah. She helped us immensely when Lukey passed.
That's awesome.
So yeah. I mean, and you don't have to believe it. I started out kind of skeptical, but she was telling us stuff that went on in the house that nobody would know unless you had the house bugged, and who's that interested in us?
Yeah.
So
Back to that peanut butter knife. Yeah.
well, yeah, exactly. It's all been done. I mean, if we're fighting, they can hear us outside. There's not real great insulation, but other than that, no.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, this kind of stinks because we don't have that much left. Or do you want to power through? I mean, we have 10 minutes. Do you want to just? I hate
The
to
next chapter is that big.
I know.
We could go to chapter 13 because that's, I think, next week, or well, we're gonna not do next week though.
But then we only have like 2 pages to read.
Yeah. We can do this.
All right, let's do it.
You guys speed listen, I'll speed read. We're good. Okay. Page.
Done.
When PJ created Row the Boat, he had a vision to impact more than just his football program. He wanted to impact his university, community, state, country, and people from all walks of life. He wanted to make a difference beyond the football field and the locker room. He knew it started with him and his team, and that from inside the locker room and inside their minds and hearts, they would have a ripple effect on the outside world. So far, we've seen the impact Row the Boat has had on the teams and places PJ has been. But I was also curious about the influence of Row the Boat on people beyond football. I asked PJ to share with me some of his favorite stories of seeing how Row the Boat utilized by people outside the football program. Okay. Our players have done and continue to do so much work with the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital that it inspired Heather and me to start the Row the Boat Fleck Family Fund. Try and say that 5 times fast, guys. It's designed to help families stay together and ease their burdens during the stay at the hospital. Our focus is to keep families together as much as possible so the focus can be on their children and their marriage. If the family is united and connected and less stressed, they can better handle the recovery and process in the hospital. So many stressors come into play when your child is admitted to the hospital: financial stress, sibling stress, marital stress, psychological stress. The Row the Boat Fund covers any costs that families incur staying together so they don't have to leave their child due to financial pressures. All our proceeds from any Row the Boat merchandise go right to both Ronald McDonald House and the Row the Boat Fleck Family Fund at the Children's Hospital. We didn't create Row the Boat to make money for ourselves. We came up with it to help others get through various storms in their life and know that they are not alone in their journey. We did it to join forces with certain organizations to help raise more money and awareness for their causes and missions. Our football program and Row the Boat has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars through the sale of Row the Boat gear and donation sponsorships. We want the Gopher football team and Row the Boat to be an elite example of what never giving up looks like, as well as never counting yourself out, no matter how bleak things might look. Our message and mission go way beyond football. We want our fans in the stands to know that when you're rowing the boat with our football team on Saturdays, rooting us to victory, you're also helping so many youngsters and their families, which is way bigger than the final score on the scoreboard. You don't have to play football, coach football, or even like football to row the boat. Just love your life, give your time and energy to others, give hope to all by staying connected in faith and life, and row on. Row the Boat has affected so many over the years with such amazing help from the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital and all the people involved. One moment I'll never forget is when Braxton Battaglia, age 10, spoke to our team in 2019 before we left for the Outback Bowl. She also made the trip to Tampa and was there in the stands for the celebration after we beat Auburn in one of the greatest wins in school history. Her exclamation before we got on the airplane to head down to Tampa will ring in the ears of our players forever. If I can row the boat and beat cancer, you can beat Auburn. And we did, and won the Outback Bowl to finish one of the greatest seasons in school history. In 2017, Kyle Tanner gave away a scholarship to his favorite Gopher player, Justin somebody, our third string walk-on kicker at the time, during a team meeting. Kyle loved Justin so much because Justin visited him in the hospital weekly as he bravely fought and defeated cancer. This story has special meaning because Kyle was a Central Michigan graduate, the rival of Western Michigan, where I coached from 2013 to 2016. So he was definitely not a WMU fan, and also likely not a fan of me previously, but he was a fan of Justin and our team culture. Going from rivals to friends shows the power of that culture and illustrates what Row the Boat can do to connect people. We all became close and will continue to stay close because of our mission together through football, serving, and giving. One of my favorite things about Row the Boat is to see the people it has impacted in education, healthcare, and the military. People like Cody Pelugio, a middle school teacher in Minnesota who utilizes Row the Boat principles to impact more students. And John Foss, the VP of Hospital Operations at Mercy Health, who said he used Row the Boat to reignite and rebuild his team and had the best year in over a decade as a result. I've heard from nurses who have used Row the Boat to encourage departments and principals who inspired and equipped their teachers and students with it. And as someone who studies military history, I also love hearing from leaders in our armed forces who have been inspired by and have utilized Row the Boat to motivate their people. As I said in the beginning of the book, my goal in creating Row the Boat was not just to win football games, but to help people win in life. I'm thankful we're able to live and share this mission each day. Rowing into the future. While books have a beginning and an end, the Row the Boat journey continues. As you read these words, the next chapter of Row the Boat will already have been written, not on a page, but in a book of life. More seasons will be played, more players will be encouraged, more people will be impacted, and more stories will be told. Fittingly, I'm writing this on December 31st, 2020, a day to reflect on what happened in the past and think about the future you want to create. With all that PJ and Row the Boat have accomplished, I asked him what's next. What does he see for the future? Where does Row the Boat go from here? PJ's answers are a great way to finish this book as he begins the next part of his Row the Boat journey. Okay. So where do we go from here? How does Row the Boat continue on the journey? I return to advice that taught me so much about football, business, and life from one of my greatest mentors, Jim Trussell. Don't ever think you're the only one who can do what you're doing at the place you're doing it at. We all have an expiration date. Leave it better than you found it. Nothing is guaranteed in college football or life. Be more than just football and wins. Wow. Basically, he told me that people are everything in this world and you make success happen together. Always understand that you're an influencer for only a short period in history. What will you be remembered for? What will be your legacy? Is it the wins, how you made people feel, the lives you changed, the moments and memories you created for others, or the hope you instill in people? Or maybe all of it. Of course, I love to win. I am as competitive as they come, and I'm a football coach. But truth be told, what Heather and I love most about rowing the boat is making a difference in people's lives. And coaching gives us a platform to do that in a lot of ways with a lot of people. How will you use your platform for purposeful change? I love to encourage people and give them hope. I love to help people focus on the possibility of what can be done instead of so many focusing on what they cannot do. Be the reason. Adversity has taught me that we can overcome anything. We can find a way forward. We can row out of any storm. Thinking back to 2020, it was not the year to get all we wanted, but to be grateful for what we had. The price of change is expensive and not everything will be perfect, but we can make each other better and we can help each other see possibilities instead of impossibilities. Football teams, families, and businesses are not always going to have the most resources, the greatest skill, the most money, the biggest brand, the most demand, the most support, the cleanest bill of health, the perfect family dynamics, and or the best facilities. However, it's important to remember that if you don't have it, you can create it. Row the boat each day and create the change you want to see. When you hit adversity, keep rowing. If you face a storm, keep rowing. When the winds are against you, keep rowing. There will always be a lot of reasons why you can't do something. Find a way to be the reason why you can. We're going to keep rowing one day at a time and keep impacting lives. If you look too far into the future, you'll lose your focus and energy in the present. So right now, we're going to continue to live and share the principles of Row the Boat with others. We're going to continue to live the standards we have set for ourselves and our culture. Heather is expanding her role with organizations to partner up to spread the Row the Boat mission. She's working with companies like Ronald McDonald House and the apparel companies UNRL, Love Your Melon, and Chubby's to expand our outreach. I'm going to continue to improve. I won't compare my journey or my boat to others. That will steal my joy. Instead, I will focus on my own Row the Boat journey while helping others create their own boats and enjoy their own journeys. When you do, life becomes a special ride. It becomes more about your significance, influence, and legacy rather than just success. I'm so fortunate to already be living my dream. My goal is now to empower others to live theirs. I want to share 10 lessons I've learned that will continue to guide me forward. I hope they inspire you. Never sacrifice what you really want down the road for what you want right now. Trained behavior creates boring habits. Boring habits create elite instincts. You win with people, not just players, people who make their life about others. Do all you can to give more than you take because serving and giving is the key to life. The hardest part about being the standard is that you are the standard all the time. Culture trumps skill. A person distracted is a person defeated. Embrace your past to create your future. Hard work and competitive spirit are not the same. Always compete. There is a major difference between success and significance. The goal should be significance. Row your boat.
That's awesome. So good. Anybody have any final thoughts?
Good book that I didn't think I was going to like whenever we started.
Really?
Really. I did not want to read it. I was like, okay.
You wanted somebody else to row your boat?
I just wanted to kind of get a pontoon and float.
That's
I
fine.
missed the biggest part of it, but what I got was good. So I'll go back and read the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like it was good. I felt like it had some really good points on things. And I think the biggest thing, and one of the biggest takeaways that I remember when we talked about it with the directors was, Pam talked about how, is she the absolute best at what she does over the years? No, not necessarily, but she outlasted everybody because she never gave up. She always kept her oar in the water. And that's very, very powerful, to just like, she always had a vision. And even when, for all intents and purposes, it didn't look like that vision was coming to fruition, she still kept her oar in the water and she still kept going. And I remember when she said that, I was like, she goes, am I the best at what I do? No, she's like, I've just been here the longest. I never gave up. That's why we're always ranked so high, because I've never given up. I've always kept my oar in the water. Whereas like you see people that blow it, they're like, whoa, they're amazing. And they rise to the top, but then a lot of times they end up falling back down because they don't keep their oar in the water. They glide, they blow it up somehow, and so, but that's kind of what she did. And I just like, I loved it when she said that. It was so simple. I was like, that's a simple recipe for success. Just keep going.
I think sometimes people get to where they've arrived
Right.
and they pull the oar out of the water and just think they can float for a while. And that doesn't usually work.
No.
I mean, maybe very briefly, but but you can't do it for like a long while and just think, well, I did that. Everybody's already seen me do that. They need to learn from what I did, and I'm just going to sit back and watch, because that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in Tupperware. You
And
see it
then
in sports all the time. Yeah.
And they sink really fast and they give up
Mhm.
and they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times you'll see it with kids, like especially in sports or grades or something, and they're like, "Oh, I got whatever an amazing thing is on the SAT test," and then they decide to take. So I can get in college, that's fine, and they take time off, and all of a sudden, instead of still working towards what they're doing, or they win a game or they do something like that, and you'll see kids. I used to watch one of the girls that one of my kids played softball with. Every time they would win a tournament, she would miss like the next 2 or 3 practices
Oh my God.
because they were so good. She didn't need to practice.
That drives me, that just even the thought of that just pisses me off.
Oh,
honestly.
it drove
We're like-
everybody crazy. Yeah. And finally, the coach got to where when she would miss those practices, when they would play again, she wouldn't start. And her dad would get like furious. But she's one of the best players you got. And the coach said one day, he said, she is one of the best first basemen I've ever seen, but there's no commitment. He said, there's no team commitment at all. It's all about her. And that's not what we're doing. And I was like, that's kind of a rough
Good for
lesson to
him.
learn at 15, but it's about time, maybe.
Sounds like the
needs to
dad
bring
needs
it
a
up.
lesson. Like I would never let my kids do that. Like, and they wouldn't do it. And they wouldn't do it. They
Yeah.
wouldn't even occur to them. That was the thing.
Yeah. I'm not going now.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Well, guys, I have to go. So
I do too.
it's been
But
fun.
thanks everybody. And I'll put someplace, I'll just kind of put out there those 2 books and we'll just see. Like I said, when that other book comes in, I can take a look at it and just see what we think, so.
What books did you talk about?
We talked about the book that Jose Luis wrote that is like 10 things I learned from my mom. Loretta mentioned that too, that it has questions at the end, like thought-provoking type questions. So that's kind of a plus thing, like at the end of each chapter. The other one is this book. And I've read this book. It's a little bit longer, but it's really good. And it's not super religious. Like it's just truly, it's kind of like the carpenter, like you just, they give Jesus as an example and some of the things that he did as a leader and help you kind of dissect what does that look like in real life. you know, and this also at the end of a lot of the chapters, and sometimes in the middle of the chapter, it has a pause and reflect, you know. And so it just like, when I remember when I started reading it, I was like, I got it years ago. When I started reading it, I was like, I really want to read this with somebody, like, because it, like, there are just things that you could just kind of go back, a dialogue going back and forth, you know, to give real life examples of some of the things that they're talking about. But yeah, it's very good. So
Before everybody logs off, I put the link to Flint Candle Company in the chat. So if you
Oh,
click,
cool.
it, get you there.
Yeah, so grab it before we hang up because it will go away.
I got it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.